And as we try and cope with the latest, and I repeat, latest mass shooting in this country, it's more than fair that some of you are rightfully worried about your own personal safety, especially since this one, it didn't happen way across the country. It was in our own backyard.
Yeah, so how do you keep that anxiety and fear from reaching unhealthy levels? Kevin Gilliland, a licensed clinical psychologist in Dallas, joining us live this morning to help answer that question. And Kevin, first, thank you for taking the time out of your day to be here with us, because we know you're busy, but this is such an important topic to discuss. Where should we be putting our mindset right now? How should we be focused in getting through these days?
Yeah, I so appreciate you guys spending some time on this, because it is terribly, terribly emotional, shocking, and overwhelming. And unfortunately, that's the appropriate response. It will get better, but we need to do more than just, well, time heals all. It actually doesn't. We need to add something to that equation. And like you said, the sadness, the grief, and the pain, that will improve. But what we have to be on guard of is that our worry doesn't grow into anxiety and catastrophic thinking, and we end up at a place of going, you know what, I just shouldn't go out. No, that is worse for us. That is physically and psychologically damaging. And so for a while, for a week or two or three, or maybe a month or two, we're going to be a little bit on guard. We may be a little more anxious than we used to be. That's okay, but you should see it start to go down. Now, it's not gonna go like it was 5 years ago or 10 years ago. The reality is we have to be more aware of it. And you guys are right. It's one thing to see it on the news and it's still heartbreaking, but when it's in your community, it's devastating.
Kevin, I'd like to follow up with that, because, you know, you talk about not being able to let the fear rule your life. But I will say, I think, at least I speak for myself when I say this. I know that now, and it's been this way for a while, but especially now when this has happened in our own backyards, even just going to the store on a weekend, I think about it. And I think a lot of people do. You know, you talk about this weekend being Mother's Day weekend. A lot of people on Friday are going to start thinking about going shopping for mom. Somewhere in the back of your head, you're always thinking, is it going to be me next? Am I going to be in this place next? And I guess my question to you really is, like, how do you separate out what's a healthy, normal amount of fear? Because let's face it, this is the reality we're dealing with now. You do have to think about it. And at what level is it too much?
Yes. So Brooke, I so appreciate you just being candid and honest. As a trained professional, no difference for me. None. I mean, don't go, oh, Kev, I bet it's easier for you because you're a psychologist. No, it's not. It's the same for me. And what I'm saying is I have to manage it. Now, if you think about it, we have situations we go to that are either events or something new or a part of town or a town we don't know. And we're a little more aware of our surroundings. That's where we need to settle in with these things. And if you have kids in school or you're in a public venue, unfortunately, we need to be a little more aware of our surroundings than we used to be. But you want to make sure you're keeping it in the appropriate space, because fear is exhausting to us physically and mentally, because fear means something's about to happen. We've triggered our fight or flight response, and we can't do that every time we go to the grocery store, because if we do, we will be so worn out that we'll come to the wrong conclusion that it's better to stay home. No, it is not. You may need to talk with someone to adjust that fear back down to more of a situational awareness and something that's manageable.
How manageable is it to expect children to recover quickly from this? Because when I think about it, I think about the Cho family. We've been talking all week about the Cho family, you know, the mom, the dad, the really young brother, and now you have that one brother, William, who's still here on this earth. And you know, the main core of who he loved and who he thought his life would be around, they're gone. How do you even begin to have conversation with children when something like that affects them on a level that most adults can't handle.
Gosh, Keith, I've done a lot of interviews and talked about these things for a long time. This one in Allen and the one in Nashville, I have a coworker that is in that community, goes to that church. And it's been really difficult for me, like it is for so many, to be kind of close when I leave the office to people that were directly impacted. And that level of sadness is overwhelming at times for all of us and people in this community. And so we're both trying to grieve, but also trying to help our children. Some may be grieving, and some may be dealing with worry and fear. And the most critical thing is talk to them and be age appropriate. If they're younger, what do they know and how did they find out about it? Was it a friend? Was it a teacher? And keep that information appropriate to them. And here's what happened. Here's actually what happened. And here's why you're safe and the things that we do to keep you safe. Schools are doing a much better job with this than we ever have. Teachers are talking with young children. And if you have adolescents, they're going to be talking about this as well. And the reality is we are safer than you think we are, but not as safe as we want to be. And that's okay. That's true about other areas of life. And there are going to be questions we can't answer. I don't know why this happened. I also don't know why your grandmother passed away. I don't know why your uncle has an illness or what. We have to answer those difficult things in life for our kids. The most critical thing is talk. And the more they talk, the easier it gets. Help them identify what those feelings are. And then are there thoughts that go along with feelings? And as they get older, they know that. And talk about, okay, those are emotional. Let's talk about some of the things that are factual in terms of safety at school, at home, with me when we're out, and talk about some plans and what they can do.
And, kind of going with what Keith was talking about there, the other two people that I can't stop thinking about with all of this are those Mendoza sisters, so young. And we're focused a lot on the people who were at the mall and the immediate family, but there are also kids that went to school with these two little girls who are not going to see them there on Monday when they return to class. And how do you talk to your kids if maybe they're in one of those schools or they're in a situation like that? And also, what do you look for in your kids? Because kids are not always as adept at being able to express their emotion the way older kids, teenagers, and adults are.
Yep, very true. So some of the classic things we look for are, your kid, look for a change, whether it's academically or them not wanting to do things they used to enjoy doing. So they'll either, you got one or two options. They'll either shut down and withdraw, or they'll start acting out and angry or breaking things they love. And so talking is, I can't stress it enough, but talk and listen. Don't be so quick to fill in the answers, but let them talk. What are you feeling? Where do you feel it? What are the emotions that go with it? Because you're dealing with two things. If they were close, they're dealing with sadness, and then they're dealing with fear. Those are different things. And so help with some of the sadness, share some of your own feelings. Now they're talking about grieving. That's a different process than worry and fear. And so you're going to do some similar things, but different things. And so the grief part, most parents are acquainted with, and there's some great resources online to help children that are grieving. The fear and worry about safety and these mass shootings, that's something that's really new for all parents and new for us as a society. So make sure you're working on those different things. And as they get to that teen years, have them rate it. Where's your anxiety from 0 to 10? And what are the thoughts it's telling you? And go, okay, well, let's have some conversations about that so it's more balanced.
My key takeaway that I'm hearing when I hear you speak about this, though, is that you have to have the conversation. This is not a subject that you can ignore, bury your head in the sand. You do have to talk about this.
And it gets yes, and yes. Just talk. And make sure they're talking to coaches or teachers. Make sure you're talking to coaches and teachers and their school counselors. And if they need to, have them go visit with somebody that's just a counselor for a handful of times, just to navigate their way through it, whether it's for sadness or the grief of they lost a friend or anxiety. They may not need therapy, but what they may need is a helpful conversation and some really practical tools. And I promise you, parenting in situations like this gets easier the more they're talking.
Licensed clinical psychologist Kevin Gilliland. Transparency is key, even in a situation like this that is unthinkable. Kevin, thank you for joining us. We could talk to you for an hour more. I mean, seriously,
Yeah,
you are
we
so
could.
full of insight. And I got to be honest, this is the best conversation we've had
It is.
with a professional in the aftermath of that tragedy in Allen. So, Kevin, thank you.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you for creating the venue for people to get a little bit of help, because it matters.
It does, and having that conversation makes a difference.
All right, Kevin, at 9:44, we do invite you to stay with CBS News Texas throughout the coming days and weeks as we continue to bring you more updates from Allen. You can find the latest stories and updates on our website at cbstexas.com.